Maybe one day. Dude, I feel you. I just started dipping my toes into content creation as well. I started writing blogs, and I just got a whole camera set up to do online classes. Actually, I'm going to do online singing classes and like YouTube content. So I'm excited about that, but it's overwhelming, man. I didn't understand the number of tiny little decisions you have to make to figure out your setup when you're getting started, and like, what do I record in? I don't know. Depends on the platform. Go check what each one takes and how it's going to show it. Is it even worth it to shoot it in a higher resolution or whatever? I had no idea what can of worms I was opening.
Apparently, everything that I'm reading is more about the 1080 being better than the 4K because most platforms will accept a 1080 a lot better. It's easier download,
Mm,
better user experience than a 4K. And so I've been
mm.
reaching out to all these people that do two people that do podcasts, and
All these people, dude,
right,
I
all
feel you.
these
It's like
people. I mean,
when you're starting your hustle, your network isn't huge, but you make advantage of it.
yeah, that's for damn sure. Uh, and I mean, there's a lot of Reddit stuff as well, but some of the stuff is just so damn expensive. Like
Mm,
you're spending $800 at least for a good camera, and
mm.
I was like,
Yep.
I can't rationalize that starting out. How are these
Right.
people like just dropping like I watched a video the other day, it was like a budget friendly whatever. $4,000 this guy spent on his
Oh
fucking.
my
It's like this isn't budget friendly. Who are you? What are you doing?
god. That's funny.
It's
Yep, that's real. Funny story about that. So I ordered one of those $800 cameras you're talking about. It was the Sony ZV-E10. YouTube seems to consent with one another. Concur. That's the word. I was like, consensus? Concur. They seem to agree that like that is a great pick for someone starting out. It kind of has everything you need and nothing extra, right? Um, but yeah, it's $800. And I was like, well, I'm in this for real, and I do have a little bit of cash, so I decided to buy it. And it came with a kit lens that everyone said is decent enough to get started. And I was like, sweet. I found it on Open Box for Best Buy, so it was $100 off. Shows up in the mail, and I'm like so stoked. The box doesn't look as good as I thought it would. It's a little beat up, and I was like, whatever. Pull the camera out. It's got heft. It's nice. I'm like, wait, this is the wrong color. And I look at the box, and I'm like, yeah, they even gave me the right box, black camera. But this is different. Wait a minute. And I checked the order because there's no lens, and I'm like, wait a minute. And they sent me the wrong camera with no kit lens, but it's an $1,800 camera, not an $800 camera. And the Mormon in me, I don't know if that's what we're talking about today, but the Mormon in me was like, I have to return this. This isn't right for me to keep this. And then the rest of me, the bigger part of me, honestly, was like, but I mean, this is a professional camera, right? I'll never need to upgrade. And the chips never fall in my favor usually. So I was like, you know what? I'm keeping it. And I told my friends, and they're all like, good for you. And I'm like, yeah,
hell yeah.
keeping it. I still
It's
have to spend $400 on a lens now. So they're going to get my money one way or another. Ugh. And it's a full frame camera, which I found out the lenses for those are way more expensive if you go full deal on them. So, like I said, they'll get their money out of me one way or another. So I don't feel too bad.
what is a full frame camera?
Oh, so yeah. See, I didn't even know this till about 3 weeks ago. So most professional grade cameras have a sensor, right? They're pretty much all consumer level cameras are digital, right? So they have a sensor, but there are different sensor sizes, right? The one in your phone is tiny, and anyway, most professional cameras have a 35 millimeter. Well, that is exactly what it is. I think digital sensor size. So say it's yay big, right? And it's based off of traditional film, which is, it's the proportions, dimensions of what traditional film looks like. So that's sort of a standard sensor size, I guess, but it's very expensive. It's like the cheapest full frame camera I think that I found was about $1,000, and it's bare bones. Like most decent ones start like around $1,500, and they can go up from there to thousands and thousands. Um, So as an alternative, I guess camera makers made what's called an APS-C sensor. People will call it a 3/4 sensor because it's like here's 35 millimeter size, full frame, and then the APS-C sensor is yay big, right? It's a
Okay.
little smaller, so it's slightly less resolution. It's just, I mean, it's like hard to describe. How do you describe it? So basically, everything looks a little more zoomed in.
Okay.
So it's the same resolution as a full frame camera, but it's just the focal distance is a little different is really all it is. And I think you get slightly less quality because the sensor isn't as big, it can't take in as much light, and so um your darks will look darker, your whites will look whiter, your colors will be more vibrant, everything will look more detailed and crisp, I guess, if you have a full frame lens, as long as you're using full frame camera, as long as you're using a full frame lens, which I won't be because I didn't have $1,000 to spare right now on a lens. I tried to buy a $700 camera, so I settled with a $400 lens. So that's that long story. Also, heads up, it's not official, but I'm pretty sure I have ADHD. I'm meeting with my doctor next week to find out for sure. So if I get a little, that's all just to say, I get a little wandery, or I can go off, man. If you want me to go off, I'm always, my wife can tell you, right? So if
I
I
think
ever
that
get to, you
it's
know,
part of it.
too, okay, just rein me in if I'm talking too much at any point.
That is my job, and I would rather you talk more than you talk less, because sometimes there are people that it's hard to get anything out of, and it's like, so like, tell me a little bit more about that. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, cool.
Awesome.
I appreciate that. Like, tell me, like, come on, give me something here.
Yeah.
So no, I definitely would rather more than less. And then if it is two more, we're straight off, then I'll bring it back to
Yeah.
wherever we need to go. Um,
Cool.
so I met you through Nate. This is our first time ever chatting. Nate
Hmm.
is a fantastic human being, and I've had the
Yeah.
pleasure of getting to know him here in Bryan College Station. And he told me a little bit about your post,
Oh, okay.
and then
I see.
shared it with me. We were like sitting down at Primrose, which is a local like tapas place here in town.
I figured it sounded like a millennial hangout.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
pretty much.
sounds like a nice one. I want a Primrose here, whatever that is.
Oh, dude, you got it. A Primrose is a good place to be. The best tiramisu in town. I swear to
Oh
God.
my
I don't know if you're a
God, I
tiramisu, but
love tiramisu so much.
the best in town, man.
I
God.
definitely wasn't born to be Mormon.
You like all the things that Mormons
I
coffee.
do. I always have sex and coffee and just pleasure, honestly. Like I feel like so many, it's not a commandment or anything. It's not something you're explicitly told to do, but there's a very puritanical culture in Mormonism. There's sort of this sense that, like, well, our physical bodies are evil, right? We need to suppress our impulses and our feelings and our wants and our carnal desires, right? It's bad to want things with your body. You should only want them with your spirit. And they tell you what things your spirit will want. So you end up just wanting what they want you to want. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, we don't have to get in deep right away, but yeah, Nate and I. So it's so funny. Nate and I are one of, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but there's these people in your life where you sort of orbit each other, right? Like you're always in each other's circles, and like you never become best pals or end up having those deep conversations necessarily, but like you're always on good terms, always happy to see each other, right? Just for
For
whatever
sure.
reason, you just don't spend as much time together. But, as your life changes and these major milestones happen, you end up being there for them, His ex-wife Cassandra and I were a little bit closer. We were in the same program in college and started at BYU the same year. We were both transfer students, but we were taking freshman courses in this very structured degree. So we kind of came up together, and that's how Nathan and I became friends primarily. But he is a really good guy. I feel comfortable around Nathan. He's one of those
Yeah.
people you feel safe around, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. which is a big deal for me. So,
Why?
oh, you asked the question. Well, again, let me know how deep you want to get in, but
We're going. We're
I
live. We're going.
so I'm a here we go. I'm a trauma survivor. I'm a trauma survivor in a few different ways, um, which I can share about to an extent. I'll probably be general about all of that because I'm still in a place where I'm very much processing it for myself. And it's not something I really realized until the last few years of my life, which is kind of insane to me. You know, I read the articles and textbook references that said that adults' brains, stop developing and kind of finish themselves, and settle into who they're going to be in their late 20s, and then you can have a more nuanced, a more objective look back at your childhood and your life, and kind of start deciding what you want to keep and what you want to leave. And I knew that was a thing, and I definitely felt it. It almost was like a switch flipped when I hit 27, actually, like late 27, early 20s, 28, and then it just accelerated. But I started looking back in my late 20s, and with the help of my wonderful partner, her name's Brittany, and the people in my corner, I realized, wow, there's a lot of things I was raised with that are not okay. Some to do with my faith, mostly to do with my family, actually, surprisingly. Because even my partner Brittany, who is also Mormon, was raised in the faith, and we were married in the temple in 2015. Even her, she was like, "That's not okay how your dad talks to your mom. Like, I'm furious right now. Like, you need to do something, or I will, because like he shouldn't be talking to her like that, or
Wow.
like a friend going like, wait, what? Like they did that to you? Like that's not normal. Or like, you know, mostly a lot of it came up in therapy. I've moved back to Utah a couple years ago and was kind of stuck here. I hate living here. And I was like, well, I'm trying to figure out what to do for a career. You can't make a living as a full-time actor in Utah, really. So
It's a hard
I was
place to
figuring
be
out,
for acting, yeah.
yeah. And then the pandemic happened, and that was dark for every entertainer, for a lot of people, really,
Yeah.
right? Almost every industry took a hit. Some took off, obviously, but where was I going with that? Anyway, being in Utah, I got into therapy and have had a great therapist, um, Sue Ellen, in Orem, Utah, who's been really great for me. And I discovered EMDR. Have you heard of EMDR
I
before?
have.
Nice. Yeah, I've been doing that with her, and that brought up a lot. And then I got a medical cannabis card last December in Utah.
Nice.
And can I smoke on the podcast, or
Yeah,
is
dude, yeah.
that's okay? There's not like a rating thing.
Nah.
It helps me focus my thoughts sometimes, actually, which is another reason why I'm like, I think I have ADHD. Um, so through therapy, through EMDR, through getting my cannabis card, actually, which helped my mental health more than anything other than therapy has so far, more than any medication I've been on, which is not what I expected. I was just having severe anxiety, like, and my medication wasn't managing it, and therapy wasn't managing it, and I was just starting to feel overwhelmed. So I was like, well, I'll try cannabis. I can. I'm in the States, so and that made me feel safer than I have in a long time.
Wow.
And a lot of repressed trauma has been coming up for me ever since last December, kind of periodically. And I've been, you know, adding it to the queue of things to work through in therapy. And I've been in a hurry to work through it because I'm tired of feeling like a piece of shit. But my therapist is reminding me that, these things don't happen when we want them to. They don't happen on our timeline. So I have to be patient, which has always been a tough spot for me. Patience.
Patience is
So.
a hell of a hell of an idea, especially for someone who has ADHD. I can relate. I was
Yeah.
diagnosed very early on, and
Oh, I wish.
I've been on medication. I think my parents started me when I was like in fifth or sixth grade or something like that. Like it's
Wow.
been it's
Can
been
I
in my
guess?
life for sure.
Was it Ritalin?
It was Ritalin.
My cousin was on Ritalin in middle school. He definitely, I could tell right away he had ADHD, the hyperactivity and all that. Um, and then, but he didn't love the way it made him feel. Like he didn't feel like himself. He felt pretty like numbed out. Did you experience any of that?
For sure. So I think that one of my, we all have our strengths, we all have our things, and I think that
Right.
um, I've always had this like ability to interact and communicate very well with other people. That's just, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's where my strength may lie. And
Mm.
if I'm on drugs, then I lose that, but I'm able to sit down and complete tasks that much better, which is
Mm.
frustrating. Like I can, if I'm writing
So
a
you're like
personal,
trading between like accomplishing your goals and feeling like yourself.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And it's the absolute worst thing. Like
Wow.
I can sit there and write a program for a client, right? I'm personal training is my background, athlete
Okay.
development, and so
Awesome.
I can sit down, I can write a full training program, understand where everything's going, why it's going that way, and if I'm not, then I'm so short. It's like I get through 1 2 weeks and maybe they're half done, and I'm like I can't do this. Like I can't. Or I started reading
Mm.
an online book thing that I was doing, a
Uh-huh.
certification, and I got to a point where I was reading the same question 5 6 7 times, and I was
Yeah.
like, I just don't see the words. Like I see the words, but I just don't, like, they're not, like, I just don't know what I'm reading.
They're not sinking in. It's like dry earth and the water can't like get in, right?
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
reading out loud, reading like yelling it. Like, what do I have to
Oh
do? My dad's
wow.
like, why
To
don't you
that
just?
extent, like it would like get really frustrating,
Oh,
like
for sure.
and you'd get heightened. Oh
Yeah.
wow. That's
And
it was
so
never that bad for I mean, well,
go.
let me let you
No, go for it.
finish.
Go for it.
Well, I was just gonna say it's never been quite that for me. I think I have the inattentive type of ADHD, formerly known as ADD, which is why I don't think I was ever diagnosed because I knew people who had ADHD or were diagnosed with it, and they stressed me out. They were too much. They were too hype for me. Right? I was like I can't deal with all that, you know.
Yeah.
But it's because I have a hard time focusing on things if there's a lot of stimulation going on around me. Like I need some, otherwise my brain is too loud. That's why I always did homework with music on growing up, but it had to be the right kind of music and it had to be at the right volume so that I could kind of like tune it out and then like focus on my math, you know? Do
I
you know
love
what I'm
that.
talking about?
Oh,
Is that
for
similar
sure.
to you? Yeah.
For sure.
I don't know if it's like the way I was raised. I was raised with so my family has 10 kids. I'm number 8 of 10 kids. So
Damn.
I don't know if there were ever 12 of us in the house at one time, to be honest, because there's so many people. It kind of spans generations.
Yeah.
It does. It spans like 3 generations,
Oh my God.
which is crazy. But anyway, huge family, and it was always so noisy. There was always something going on, right? No matter what. Like really, there was a lack of privacy or any quiet in the house. But it got to the point where like I moved away to college, and if all my roommates were gone and I was in the apartment alone, it was like freaking me out because it was so quiet, and I like couldn't. It was like debilitating. Actually, I like couldn't get anything done because I was just like thinking about how quiet it was. Oh my god, it's like hilarious thinking like saying it out loud. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Nothing, man. Humanity. We're just all shapes and sizes. There's no fucking normal. There's no this is I used to say we're all broken and my wife would like take issue with that because she didn't want to feel broken and I was like, but we all are. Like, look at us. Like everyone has something they're ashamed of, right? Everyone has something they regret. Everyone has something they're afraid of. Everyone has something that triggers them. We all do. It's just so my therapist even says like you really shouldn't say like we're broken. You're not broken. Nobody's broken. Like there's nothing to fix. You just are who you are. You can be sad. You can be angry. You can be hurt. But and we can fix those things, but that's not who you are, right? And everybody deals with all this. Like nobody's broken. It's normal to suffer a little bit or a lot. That's just the human experience, I guess.
It's
I
my
also get
therapist
existential a lot.
always. I'll go for it.
Should have warned you. I also get existential a lot.
Hey, same. Like to an like I will
This
turn I've had therapists like turn on me and be like, "Yeah, that's pretty much like that's how life gets, and it like nothing really matters, and like this is just the
they're
reality of."
all
I'm like, "You're supposed to make me feel better." I thought like this is like you're telling me that nothing matters. I had one therapist
yeah.
that she started telling me about like her day and her problems, and I was like, "What are we doing here?" Like I thought this
80
was for me.
80% of therapists are agnostic secretly or not so secretly, I guess.
Probably
I'm
not
sure
so
there
secretly.
are many therapists of faith out there, but I wouldn't be surprised if deep down a majority of them were agnostic. I probably would be. I mean, I think I am now, but I think I would be even if I were Mormon and working for the church as one of their family services therapists. I'd probably end up being agnostic too, because like, how do you? I mean, you're not about to tell a victim of domestic abuse to just try and make it work because of the plan of salvation. If you're like a therapist and you know that they're being hurt, like you're not, you'll suddenly be like, wait a minute, what's something's wrong here. I think that has to do with existentialism, and I think that has to do with not existentialism, with traditional faith. So.
I think my therapist always said it's just part of your story. Like, you need all of the people that are either gonna like. I was always frustrated with people that don't like have a high standard of execution of items. Like, how could you just like buy the shittiest thing and just be okay with like that existence, and you know that it's not good for you, but you're still willing to
Mm,
accept that thing? And she was like, you need those people. Like that is part of
mm,
their story, and that is okay.
mm,
They're not wrong. They are not
mm,
right. They just you need them to exist otherwise. And then I think being like in business, like you need the CEO, and you need people who don't want to start their own business.
mm-hmm,
Otherwise, there's nobody
mm-hmm.
to guide, right? Like you
Right.
need those people.
Absolutely. I think that's a really powerful perspective to have, Benjamin. Like I've had that before professionally, and I've seen that even more as I've gotten older. Like, yeah, the world does really need all types, and simultaneously, I've always undervalued my type. That's something I've realized recently.
That
Um,
right there is a huge yes.
yeah, I'm probably not alone in that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
How do
anyway,
you work to value what you bring to the table?
oh, honestly, I couldn't at first. That's that's how that's how much abuse I went through growing up from my family and my faith. And it's okay. Big disclaimer here for any family or friends listening, and for everyone. Um, I love my family. I don't think I can help but love my family. I always have, and I always will. God, I'm getting emotional saying it out loud on air. Jesus. Sorry, sir. Um,
Do it, man.
oh,
It's
Jesus.
part of yeah. No,
Um, no disrespect to Jesus. And I love my faith still. That's the craziest part about this. Sorry, again, if my emotional verklemtness gets in the way of audio quality today, it might. So that's my disclaimer. And I love my friends. And I want to go back to what you said. The world needs all types. And that's why I wanted to finish that thought real quick before I get into to fully answering this question. I think that's a powerful perspective for you to have in your personal life with your loved ones, with religious belief and all that, culture or whatever. The world needs all types. We really should apply that business perspective that we're so good at here in America, the land of capitalism, right, to our personal lives. I I'm not a CEO type, but I am an entrepreneur type. I think because of my ADHD, and I think I always have been, and I think I've always been afraid of it because my dad was too, and I could see it gave him a lot of drive, but I could also see it never brought him much money, and money problems made us suffer as a family. There was a lot of risk and there was a lot of failure in my dad's case. As hard as he was at working, like he's the hardest worker to this day I've ever known or seen or met. Like the way that guy could throw up drywall on a wall, he's a contractor, until he was in his 60s boggles my mind. I would watch him when I was working with him, which was since I was like 11. I worked with him at least seasonally. We were a pretty poor family. Um, the I to this day I like think about watching him work and just thinking I cannot do that in life. Like I can't. I don't have it in me. I know I don't. So like I need to figure out something else to do or I'm in trouble, you know? I was intimidated by how hard he worked. I was it made me insecure, honestly. But it also kind of makes sense because again, I was his coworker since I was 12. What 12-year-old can do what a 40-year-old can do with two
Yeah.
decades of experience under their belt, right? But I just that was the only perspective you have is the one you're raised with, right? I had an unordinary childhood, and not typically in a good way, honestly. If I'm being honest, the majority of things that were odd about my childhood so far, and what I've discovered in therapy, it could change in the future, have been mostly negative, unfortunately. But there are some good things too that were peculiar about our family, and if we have time, I'd love to get into that as well. So, just to finish your thought, the world needs all kinds. I think that helps me value my family more, and 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 that's why I think that disclaimer is important. I love my parents. I love my siblings, each one of them. I love my friends, those in and out of the Mormon faith, those in and out of my life, those in and out of whatever. I love people. It's pretty easy for me, honestly. It always has been. I've hated very few people in life. So I want to make that disclaimer so that nobody walks away from this feeling like I don't. That's important to me. All right.
Yep.
So now getting back into your question. What was it? Or we were
Why?
getting back to like, yeah.
Oh, how do you um, remember the value that you have and bring to this world?
Right.
I think that was there. There
So
was one there, and there was another one that I
yes.
asked why, based off of
Yes.
what you said.
Right. So I said the world does need all types, and for a long time until recently, I undervalued my type specifically, and we tend to undervalue that the world needs all types. Yeah. And the reason I made the disclaimer about family and friends is the two main reasons, Ben, that I undervalued my type in life were my family and my faith. And that sucks to say. I don't like saying that. I wish it were different. I wish I had the kind of family that gets together every week or two and has dinner and plays card games just because they want to and they're used to it and they live by each other, but I don't. And there's a lot of reasons why I don't. And again, most of them are negative. I don't want to get into the specific traumas necessarily of my family. I would like to get into some of them of my faith, because I think my faith, although it was kinder to me than my family, it also enabled my family to be what it was. It sort of created, it absolutely created who my family was. So it's sort of the grandfather of my trauma, if you will, you know? It's my grandparents and it's the church. that's 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 whom, that is the nurture side of Cameron Smith in a nutshell. My family and my faith. And then like thank God my friends that I made in high school and college and theater, musical theater and music. That's all who saved me, right? If the church and my family is who had me locked in a basement emotionally and spiritually. Um, my friends in high school, Stud Posse, if anyone from Sandy, Utah knows about the Stud Posse at Hillcrest. Secret combinations there, good ones, fun ones. And friends I made in college through musical theater, all of the queer community that sort of like was the first switch in my brain that was like, wait a minute, these people are happy. Well, some of them, you can't say that about any group of people, right?
Yeah.
And wow, they're really fun, and they just like don't care, do they? Like, it makes me a little uncomfortable, or especially if they hit on me. Oh God, but like that's weird. My faith told me they'd be sad and feel this empty hole in their lives, something that they're missing, and they seem happier than I do. And that went on for a long time before I finally went, what the fuck? Wait a minute. Turns out I'm polyamorous and on the pansexual spectrum as well. I didn't know that until a few months ago. It's crazy what your brain can suppress when you feel like you're in danger growing up because of who you are.
Yeah.
That was news to me.
That's huge. I think for a lot of people that maybe later in their life, because I think unfortunately for our generation there was a lot of that, like suppressing who you are, because I'm dealing with a lot as a parent, which I understand. Like, I am the age that my parents had their first kid.
Right.
That's insane. Yeah. I'm sorry, but like, I know that times are different and things are really expensive right now, but
they are.
That, I can't imagine bringing a kid into this world right now. Like, I'm not suited for that, and I don't think that most of our parents were suited for that either. And then if you're growing up with a specific guidance that maybe perpetuates some unhealthy behavior, then it doesn't lead to the best production of a child, unfortunately, all the time.
Right. And if you think about it, it's I feel that deeply to my soul, what you just said about our parents and their generation. And I want that to be clear. But at the same time, I'm such a sympathetic person. I think about them and I think, they were kids just like me, right? They came into this world with creativity and excitement and spontaneity and feeling safe until they didn't, right? And they were raised by they were raised by people who went through World War II, like my grandfather, Robert Cook, who I'm named after. Spoiler alert, my first name's actually Robert. Don't steal my identity. Cameron's my middle name. My parents have always called me Cameron, but my mom named me after her dad, which is sweet. I wish that they just switched the order, though, because that's caused problems in my life. Had to freaking get a new Social Security card when I was trying to get a phone plan with my wife. That was weird. Anyway, we went the Swedish way. I learned recently that Sweden, that's normal. Like Tuvelo, excuse me. Tuvelu. It sounds weird when I say it. Everyone's like, who? Tovlo. Most people know her by. She's a pop singer. She's from Sweden, and that's very normal, I guess. Tuve is her middle name, and that's what she's always gone by. Wow. So that's where her pop name comes from.
That's fun.
Anyway, Robert Cameron Smith, my grandpa, Robert Cook, my mom's dad, he was in World War II straight up. So lucky for him, he was a cook. He was a freaking chef on a battleship and in the field. But he was deployed in Europe, I think in Germany, if I remember right. And I don't quote me on that. And my grandma's gone now, so she can't tell me. She would correct me instantly. She was such a historian. But he also ran supplies to the front lines and back from supply depots in World War II. So battle scarred, trenches in mud, right? Telephone poles incomplete and sticking sideways, that kind of shit. That movie, my grandpa Cook running supplies to the front line and back, in a big old rucksack on his back.
That's
You
insane.
know, and that's the story anyway. You know, my grandma had a penchant, excuse me, for hyperbole. So I don't know how much of that is accurate, but the story goes that he had bullet holes in his backpack. I do know for sure he had night terrors throughout his life and would wake up screaming. My mom was used to that. So, and getting back to that, I mean, think about how my mom was raised, right? Her dad was gone for a good part of her life, I think. No. He'd been back from World War II for a while before she was born, because she was born in 53. But, you know, he's in the midst of PTSD, and there's absolutely no awareness of that at the time. There's no medication. There's no, therapy to speak of, as far as I know, in 1953 for
Probably not.
PTSD. And so it went untreated. And my mother is not the oldest. So, you know, he would have gotten married and had kids with my grandma fairly quickly, although they did both end up working all their lives as teachers to make a living. And my grandma, her father, she was raised in southern Utah in Kanab and the surrounding area. I can't remember all the details, but she was raised by a family where she was unloved by her mother from birth. She was born a twin. And again, the story goes, her mother, when she gave birth to the twins, I think if it goes right, her sibling, her twin, was older than her, right? What came out first. And she held her. Her mother held her. And then postpartum something or other, I don't know. My grandma comes out. My great grandma wants nothing to do with her. She's already holding the first child. She doesn't want to touch her. She tries to like scoot her away from her and like off the bed with her foot. Is what I remember being told.
Wow.
My memory could be exaggerating that, but that's the story I remember. And so and then her dad died when she was 11, and she had to work from that age because she was like one of the middle children, and she was old enough, and she had to work. So she worked waiting tables and cleaning rooms for movie stars at these resorts in southern Utah for all these old movie actors, and getting, you know, kind of a taste for that. She loved all the old MGM movies. She had a collection of those in VHS when I was a little kid in her mobile home in West Jordan, Utah. I really hope I'm trying to create a nostalgia trip whenever possible, if you can't tell, for any Utahns out there
A
listening.
little bit.
The old regional airport out by West Jordan, the mobile home community she lived in. I used to mow her lawn, trim her hedges, and that is not a euphemism. Oh God, why did I even say that? Because trauma. Yeah, so that's who my mom was raised by. Robert and Leonora Cook, from southern Utah. Went to SUU. Highly traumatized people who had 4 children of their own, who were then traumatized to a lesser extent, I believe, but still undiagnosed. No therapy, not even attentive listening parents. Their parents can't deal with their own emotions, so they don't have anyone to turn to, not even each other, because they grew up afraid. And that's what ended up happening with my family, but to a lesser extent. We loved each other. We had a great time growing up. I have tons of great memories of my dad playing kangaroo kicks in the living room with us. It's where he would sit on his back and lay on his back rather, and we'd sit on his feet that are up in the air, and we go 1, 2, 3, and he'd push us, right? And we'd make this big old jump into the air towards the mini grand piano we used to have. I feel like safety wasn't as much of a concern back then in the 90s, but we had a great time together, you know? We had a trampoline in the backyard. That was about all we had as kids growing up, as a trampoline and a crappy old TV we weren't allowed to watch most of the time because my mom didn't like TV. But you know what? We were happy for a while there. I think each generation of my family was happy at certain points and had good times with each other. But we didn't realize till we were older that our parents kind of drove us apart from each other because they couldn't deal with their trauma, right? And had so much stress, and my dad emotionally and verbally abused my mom, and I didn't realize it until I was 28. My older siblings realized it sooner, but he used to physically abuse my siblings occasionally, and myself, and my I don't think he ever did for my mom. I don't think he would. He loves her too much. Wow, I'm really getting in deep. That's what cannabis does for me. It brings my walls down, and helps me keep my thoughts clearer. I was feeling a little scattered when we started this. I mean, I'm always feeling a little scattered, but I feel like I've
That's
kind of settled,
it
at
does the
least.
opposite for me.
Does the opposite for you? That's so interesting. Yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about medical cannabis for you.
I used to really enjoy um, having my fair share of cannabis throughout the day. Right, I my focus was mainly on really all I wanted to do was work out, and I loved pairing the two. It was like
Ah,
so
hypes you up.
peaceful. It was the best. Like
Oh
it was
no.
just it was
Oh,
peaceful. Like it was quiet, but it
oh,
was
okay.
like it was so quiet. Like I was able to quiet my mind,
Nice. Me
and
too.
it felt really nice and relaxing and being in the moment, and it was some of my favorite times. But I ended up having several not so fun experiences associated with that with other
Mm.
psychedelics. And
Ah,
I don't know that if I both
was
created
it mushrooms?
it was
Do
research
you mind if I ask?
chemicals, um
Okay.
LSD, but it was they call it 25I and 25C. And then um on top of that, I think I was arrested um for possession,
Ah,
and it was like not a
and
fun
that
time.
was like
It was a real
right.
not fun time.
Wow. So it was for possession of the cannabis.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So you'd had this other substance in your system from something prior, and then you had cannabis in your system, and you had a bad experience with that, and then you got arrested for possession. Is that what
So
you're
two
saying?
different experiences,
Oh,
but
okay.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. So I think
Okay.
one, I think maybe like creating some sort of connection between those, like like a loop between a not so fun experience with the LSD, and then combining it with the cannabis may have like subconsciously like made a connection, like, ooh, these two things don't go together. Ooh, if I do this then and this, then it's not fun time.
Wow.
And then later getting um having that charge, that one really did not. After that, it was like a definite no go. It was like every time that I would partake, it gave me more
Mm.
anxiety than anything else. It was no longer enjoyable at all.
Wow.
At
Oh,
all.
that is so crazy. It's like your nervous system or just like decided no. Like this we've had enough of this endocannabinoid system. Like fuck this shit, we're out. We didn't
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Never again. We don't trust it
100%.
anymore.
I
Wow.
if I do, then like I've wanted to go back because I remember those times where I did enjoy it, and so I'll still try to. It's been a long time at this point. I'm pretty much capped out. I'm pretty much done, but I'll attempt, and then it gives me this severe anxiety. Like I go on a rabbit hole down not a good place, and I cannot get out. And there's like no breathing.
Wow.
There's no talking. There's no is just like gonna keep
Oh my
rolling and
gosh.
rolling and feel
Keep
terrible.
rolling, rolling, rolling. Dude, that is crazy.
It's terrible.
I am sorry. Wow.
It is what it is. It's
Well,
part of my thing.
yeah, I mean, as long as you know, then you, right? Just my therapist likes to say at the end of the day, we're all just avoiding pain and seeking out pleasure, right? That's how human beings work on a fundamental level. Every single one of us works that exact same way,
Yeah.
even psychopaths, right? They just have very
Yeah.
different wiring in other ways. But that's humanity in a nutshell. That's life in a nutshell, right? Every creature is just like, hey, I just want to live. and not hurt and not die as much as possible, and then we all know that that's not going to happen, but like we make our peace with it eventually because there's no other choice, right? That's
And
existence in a nutshell.
and then imagine being like, in that you saying these two things are two. You saying that thing makes me think of two things. It's one, um, the less that I'm with my significant other, the more that I'll tend to drink alcohol. That's
Uh,
one. The second one is being in corporate America. I think that there's such this like, we gotta win and like at all costs, and we gotta save
mhm.
as much money and
It's
highest
always a
profit margins possible.
competition, right? Someone isn't sleeping, right? Yeah. Where are you
It's
going to be in the lineup? Right? Are you going to be in the top 10 at the end of the race, the top 50, the top 1,000? Are you going to be in the bottom 100? Yeah. It's that anxiety, that constant anxiety that keeps us chronically stressed. Like it hijacks our nervous system. My therapist has explained that, and the books I'm reading. We always so just a quick little moment to explain how our fight flight response system works, our nervous system, our parasympathetic nervous system. I get the two mixed up. So our body, our functioning, right? When we sense a threat, when our senses pick up something that our brain says is a danger, right? It's trying to keep us alive, trying to keep us procreating. Then we go into like fast forward mode. Our body does, right? We get a hit of adrenaline and some other chemicals that I don't know. I've just been told some other chemicals. And our heart rate increases and our breathing increases and our pupils dilate to take in more light and we fucking get ready to go, right? And our brain decides very quickly it has to go, okay, what's the best chance of survival? What are the odds? Go. Running away, killing the thing. And then freeze is somehow, I don't know if it's in there or not. I'm getting the sense that freeze is becoming the unwanted vowel or unwanted consonant. What was it? P used to be like a vowel or something. Now it's a consonant or I, or I forget. There's some like letter in the alphabet that's not considered one or the other.
a Y.
That's my point. A
No?
Y.
Yeah.
Yes. A Y. Like, is it a vowel? Is it a consonant?
Yeah.
Y. Some people got taught one, some people got taught the other, and whoever used to get taught one and isn't being taught now, they're like, "Hey, what about Y? It used to be." Oh. God, see, this is the thing. I'm lucid. I know exactly what I'm talking about, but now I'm talking about nonsense. That's the downside of cannabis. I'm talking about why very clearly. Why, Cameron? Why? All
So we were
right.
talking about
The fight, flight, or
fight or
freeze.
flight.
So freeze is like the why I'm getting the sense of this whole thing because in all the stuff I'm reading now, and it's like fight or flight. That's what my therapist keeps saying. So freeze might be some other thing.
I think
But
that
playing
freeze
dead,
happens.
like with a bear, right? You're like, okay, I can't run away from this, and there's no way I'm gonna kill it. So pretend I'm dead, and maybe it'll leave me alone. But we kind of have to be taught that, that's maybe not instinctive. I don't
I
know. I've
think
never
I
been
think
attacked by a bear.
freeze happens. So you have a curve of a level of anxiety and performance, right? And so you have I believe it's a bell curve. And so as your anxiety increases, your performance will increase, right? Up until a point where you have so much anxiety that your performance will now
Uh,
decrease, and then you drop off to the point where you have paralysis. And so I think that
mm,
freeze is definitely incorporated, and it's associated with too much anxiety, or there. I think anxiety is
I
the
see.
curve, and it,
Mm,
it, it is a positive thing for most. Like, anxiety is normal and natural, and it
right.
can be used appropriately because it is your body telling you
It's
it's this.
fuel. It's like a fuel injection for a car. Like boom, here, go.
Exactly.
Right.
It's just what I think EMDR helps with is associating the right things, and like creating the right
Mm,
pattern, right? Taking that
mm-hmm.
trauma response out and creating this, like, oh shit, like this safety mechanism where it doesn't exist because it used to exist and it's no longer healthy, but at the time it kept you safe, but now you're not in that situation. So then EMDR is trying to like rewire that, like skip over that trauma response and then create the
Right.
appropriate response.
Right. Right. Ice cream isn't actually a threat to your life. You just think it is because one time as a kid you choked on it and almost died, and you now you see ice cream and your body freaks out and it says get away from that. Even though you really like blueberries and it's blueberry cheesecake ice cream because that's what I would want it
That sounds like not good for my belly, but it sounds tasty.
to be. Yeah, that's true. Do you have acid reflux too?
I have I'm severely lactose
Man,
intolerant, and I only
okay.
realized it in the last like couple years. And I kind
Oh
of
wow.
knew all along, but I never really paid attention to it. And then I did
Mm,
I did a diet. What is it called? The it's a diet for allergies. It's like a you only consume like no nuts, no it's like 8 different foods that you're allowed to eat for the first 30 days, and then after those
mm.
30 days, then you can go
Oh
ahead
yeah,
and um, um hold on
I've
real quick.
heard of this. No worries.
I think my charger's not connected. I just realized. So I'm gonna go get
Okay.
my charger here in a second. But I
Pause.
wanted to finish talking about this.
Intermission. Okay.
Um,
I'll just play some random piano. We'll take
there you go.
a
Do it.
take a
Play some
one
random
minute
piano. Let me go get my
intermission.
yeah. Let me go do that.
All right. Oh gosh. Oh yeah. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Ben, are you almost done? It's getting a little crazy over here, Ben. For anyone listening, I am on the piano out of 10.
How did it
I'm a
go?
5. It went all right. I think you'll enjoy it later. You might chuckle. We'll see.
I'm excited for it. I think you're the
God, I'm
first
like
person that's ever played
shaking.
an instrument.
Really? Oh, cool. No, I'm like literally shaking right now. Not because it's because I'm so when I get on the spot with performing, I get this huge rush of chemicals, huge rush of adrenaline. So like that moment where I got a little silly on the piano and I started feeling vulnerable on the air, I was like, woo, I'm feeling it. Like my heart is beating right now. I'm sweating. My hands are shaking a little. It's like, it's this combination of like, oh God, what if people think I'm an idiot? What if they think I'm bad? Like this like loud yelling in my brain, like stop. And then this other part of my brain is like, God, people usually say you're talented and fun and silly. So keep going. We need the approval. And it's like, I get, yeah, my heart rate jacks up, dude. It's like lifting weights for me.
I
That's
go
why I've
through.
gained weight since I stopped performing a couple years ago. Man, my metabolism has tanked in the last couple years. So I just started back up with exercising. I'm trying to get back on it.
It's important to continue to exercise, man. Like what is your what is if you do are exercising, what does your regimen look like?
That is changing. If- I'll just tell you what I'm doing now. Right now, I'm starting out with yoga and like just like body weight exercises at home because that's the easiest thing for me to do. We've got some small free weights and exercise bands and yoga mats and stuff. And we've got a TV and space in our living room. So I just pull up a yoga video on YouTube or a whole body, like a cardio workout, or if I ran out of time, like this morning, because I spent too much time with my puppy I'm training. I was like, crap, I don't have time to do yoga before I get ready for this podcast. So I was like, I'm going to do 50 crunches right now before I shower. So that was what it was today. But for me, that is a win because consistency is really difficult for me. That's the hardest thing for me. So if I can be consistent, that's a win. So
So how do you as somebody who has ADD or ADHD,
And quick disclaimer about that for everyone listening. Sorry, Ben. God, I make a lot of disclaimers. I don't know for sure if I have an ADD diagnosis. I don't have one. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm waiting on my next doctor's appointment to find out. It's just highly suspected based on all of my friends and my spouse's feedback. And since I started researching it, I've related to it a lot. And it's been helping me be more productive and feel more balanced after not feeling very balanced for a long time. So we, neither Benjamin, correct me if I'm wrong, or I are trained, mental health practitioners or
Very correct.
providers. We just are giving our opinions from what we've experienced with therapy and medication and life, right?
Yeah.
So
Um,
there we go. Now
so,
nobody can sue us.
so maybe better to say somebody who has this struggle of both not maybe conforming to somebody else's ideas, or maybe somebody who is more apt to question somebody else's ideas, and someone who is it, it's harder to stay focused on specific items. How do you manage being able to be your own entrepreneur, boss,
Mm,
manager? Like these three things seem like kind of like for an insane person.
yeah, they are. I am a little insane.
Cool.
Honestly, I can admit that now. Mental illness runs afoul in my family on both sides. So that's the thing is I have been diagnosed with anxiety and depression. One and then the other after about 2012 was when that happened. Um, but I knew something was off when I first had therapy in 2011, and I was like, it was like I could breathe air again, ever like for the first time since I was a kid. So anyway, I was diagnosed with those, but I have siblings who've been diagnosed with bipolar, manic bipolar, borderline personality disorder, anxiety. I don't think anyone's been diagnosed with OCD, depression. So kind of runs the gamut in my family. Gender dysphoria is another one. So yeah, I'm one of those people. For a long time, I couldn't say it out loud. I couldn't even acknowledge it myself because I my brain's so silly. I kept thinking I was trying to, be just the most like I was trying to be a woke idol in my own mind. Like, wow, like no way, I'm queer a little bit. I don't, identify quite with, gender stereotypes, and I'm agnostic, and I'm polyamorous, and I was raised by insane people. Insane people. I had the toughest childhood. I was raised in a box under the freeway and tried all the drugs, I and I was like, I'm just looking for attention. I'm just looking for validation. I'm just trying to be accepted, because I've always been insecure. And I couldn't admit how fucked up I was for a long time because I thought I was trying to be more fucked up than I was. How fucked up is that? Anyway, well, your original question.
How do you balance being somebody who can't focus on things, but also not conform to things, and
Case
then
in point.
also want to be an entrepreneur, somebody who
Oh,
manages
sure.
their own space? Like you started to talk a little bit about trying to go into business, right? Or like
Uh huh.
you having
Yeah.
your own
Content creation.
content creation, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm very similar, and so I want to ask somebody who maybe is in the same kind of like kind of struggles the same way. How do
Yeah.
you manage that?
Yes. Okay. Now I will get to your point. Thank you, Benjamin, for your patience.
Yeah, you're good.
Yes. So initially, I will admit it was very hard. And that's why I got off track because I am an insane person. So for a long time, this was one benefit of my dad's kind of failures in business. Initially, in adulthood, I had this hatred and fear of money. I kind of hated it. I kind of hated the whole system. I resented it. even when I had it, I still felt stressed about the next time I wouldn't. I was raised very poor. I remember taking trips to the food bank as a kid and it being a really magical place to me because we would get leftover, like, few day old donuts in plastic bags with the glazing all mixed together because it was hot and we lived in Yuma, Arizona, and it was an outdoor warehouse. And so they were just these weird donut bread pudding mush bags. And I loved them as a kid because that was like a major treat. We didn't have snacks, we didn't have treats in our house. We wore everyone else's secondhand clothing. We were that family. So, um, so I was afraid of money, and I didn't want it. I didn't want to have to be the decision maker with money because I didn't trust myself. I was like, I'm my dad's son. I'm gonna fuck it up, right? And I can't fuck it up because I thought at the time money was what fucked up my family because it was a constant stress in our home. And I thought that, oh, my parents, they just fight a lot. It's because of money, because it usually was. But yeah, I didn't realize it was deeper at the time. But that was actually good for me because it kind of steered me into very structured paths for employment initially. I was thinking about being I was thinking about being a marine biologist until I learned how much writing you had to do and that you probably wouldn't actually end up making that much money for it. And I was like, damn, well, I just wanted to swim with dolphins and make millions. So, uh, which now I'm like, yeah, that should be a YouTube channel. Fuck. Why hasn't anyone done that?
Could be.
Get a GoPro Hero and like go take a month vacation in the Bahamas and get 10 million views. That's, hey, Brittany, if you're listening, vacation next year. That's what we're doing. Nobody take the idea. Okay. So I struggled with mechanical engineering. I struggled with what to do. I kind of felt frozen, but I was like, I need to pick something that I'll enjoy doing. But I really struggled with imagining what that would be because I think I have ADD and I was highly insecure. I needed someone to kind of tell me what to do in life, and nobody would beyond like go to college, get good grades. And I kind of did as best I could, thanks to a lot of coaching from my mom and being put into an accelerated learning program in 7th grade after being homeschooled, the Alps program at Midvale Middle School, for all my Alpies out there. It was like a magnet program at a middle school. So kids from all over the valley came, and you'd end up a year ahead in each category or more or something like that. But you had to be like at least a half year ahead of everybody else to get in. I don't know. I just tested to get into public school because I was homeschooled. And anyway, got it. Anyway, for all my Alpies out there. So I had this like really intense program I got into, and it kind of forced me to have to sink or swim, right? I kind of drowned in 7th grade. I got terrible grades. But I knew that in 9th grade, it was going to start counting. My mom kept reminding me of that and kept reminding me that we didn't have money to send me to college. So I needed to get scholarships. Otherwise, I wouldn't go to college. And then otherwise, I wouldn't be able to make a living. And then otherwise, I wouldn't be able to provide for family. And then I'd be a failure in life. That kind of thing. For anyone else whose brain works like mine.
Yeah.
And pause. Take a breath. Get some water. So I was under this immense pressure as a man in a zealous Mormon family in Utah to be a provider someday. And I had a lot of guidance along the way. And at some point, I was able to focus on subjects long enough and freak out long enough about my imminent failure. My brain went into fight mode, I guess. And I started figuring things out. I mean, I was always good at certain things. By the end of being homeschooled, I was really good at algebra and figuring it out pretty quickly, quicker than most people, because I was forced to learn it myself. I was forced to learn how to like self-soothe, I guess, enough as a kid to get in that window of tolerance where like my brain could focus long enough to comprehend it. I used to read a lot as a kid, but it would take me weeks to read one book, even though I'd read like 3 hours a day, because I would reread sections over and over and over again. And what I ultimately ended up having to do is I had to visualize everything. I had to like narrate a movie in my mind of like everything I was reading, be it fiction, nonfiction, fucking biology textbooks. I needed a visual. That's why I struggled really hard with coding. I tried to get into coding. Oh, when I moved back to Utah, kind of laughable now. I mean, I was decent at it for how much I struggled learning it, I guess, but without visuals for certain things, I can't comprehend them. So a combination of these really challenging school programs I was in, between homeschool and accelerated learning programs and the International Baccalaureate AP program in high school and all that stuff, pushed me really hard. And I was never an A student in them like my peers. I was usually a B student, in high school. Oh no, God, what's so wrong with that? But I I felt like a secondhand success a little bit because of that. But I was pretty fucking smart when I got out of high school. College was a lot easier. And so I think that kind of set me up for some success. And then I chose a career structure where I had to career path, excuse me, musical theater, where I had to be self motivated, and that scared me. So I picked a college program like BYU, the MDT program, which is highly rigid, highly structured. You have to learn 1/3 of music, of dance, of theater. So I was like, okay, great. It's a nice blanket. Anything that I'm struggling with, that I'm trying to avoid working on, I'll have to deal with it all. I learned to push myself. And a Mormon mission did a lot of that for me too, actually. It taught me a lot about time management because I had no other choice. It was the hardest 2 years of my life, still to this day, of any years of my life combined. But it taught me so much, like how to shut up my brain enough to listen to people and how to stay organized and how to structure my time and prioritize, and like explain things concisely. I learned all of that from a Mormon mission the most, which is crazy. Like, it's crazy for me to say a Mormon mission, to wrap all that up, your question about entrepreneurship. um, to wrap it all up, I guess a Mormon mission, to this day, I'm like, that is the most meaningful thing I've ever done. Like, I loved that experience. And at the same time, I feel some guilt over like things I taught people and things I said to people, things I guilted people about. So,
What
oof.
kind of things?
Oh, like asking really poor families to pay tithing. I think Nathan mentioned that one in his. I wasn't in another country. I was in Arizona, but I served in Central Phoenix, and I taught some really poor people. I taught some really poor unmarried couples, with kids, that they needed to get married as soon as possible, despite any reasons to the contrary, so that they could get baptized, because that's what God wants them to do. And they need to pay their tithing too for the same reason, which is 10% of their gross income pre-tax. I was clear with all of my investigators, as we called them, people learning about the church, because that's what my family taught me, which is a very gray area, because I think the church likes it that way, whatever they may say. But anyway, so things like that, like pressuring people to make those decisions, trying to emotionally blackmail them to make those decisions. We called them, what did we call it? So we wanted them to make and keep commitments, right? We ask them to make a commitment. Will you do this? After we've taught them what it is and why it's important in a quick way, we say, will you do this? Will you commit to doing this? And we were hoping for a yes, like, I'll have the faith to try it. And then the promise was that as you try this, as you are willing to open up to this and say yes to us, you will be blessed in life. You will notice a difference in your life. We don't know how, we don't know when, why, but God will bless you in some way that's personal between and you and him. And your life will just get better over time, and you'll realize, wow, this is helping me. But I think it's the power of suggestion, because for some people it works and some people it doesn't. Some people it really helps them get their shit together. I saw it happen myself, and that makes me really happy, because I did also do that. And I love all of those people. I mean, I don't know what your audience numbers are like. Mine aren't big. I just started creating content, just barely, really. So I'm like having all these grand ideas of all these people I love in the world in my past who might hear this. But if anyone from the Arizona Mesa Mission who knew Elder Smith hear this, I love you guys. Think about you all the time. So a lot of things helped me on my way to being an entrepreneur. And I was able to find success as a vocal coach. I've been quite good at it, and it's very manageable for me because it doesn't require a full-time hour commitment on a structured schedule. I can teach 15 hours a week and make okay money. It can be enough if it has to be. 20 hours a week would be better, right? But like even that is quite manageable. And then I have admin work, emails, responding to clients, scheduling, stuff like that, taxes and all that. So it's a manageable time commitment, which helps a lot. It takes a lot of pressure off of me, and it's given me time to figure my crap out through therapy and medication. And those things have helped immensely, because that's what took me from like hoping I could, be my own boss and make money as a vocal coach, because I love singing and I'm great at teaching it, just hoping that I can make a living with it, because nothing else seemed to be working out for me. And it worked. And I was like, oh, thank God. Like I found it. I found the thing. Because even performing, I thought it was acting for a long time. And acting was great. It was rewarding in a number of ways, but it stressed me out. My anxiety kept hiking and hiking. Oh, it's the perfectionism in musical theater, especially, but in entertainment in general, it's tough. So that's all just to say that vocal coaching was the place where I found home. I was able to settle in, and it's been great for me. And because of medication, especially cannabis, I've been able to get through some trauma enough and feel enough again, that I'm feeling my creativity again. I'm feeling my inspiration again. And I'm getting into content creation. I'm just starting to create online singing courses for sale. And then I'll be getting into YouTube videos, instructional tutorials, reaction videos, stuff like that. And I'm super excited about it. Just bought thousands of dollars worth of camera equipment to make it look crispy, hoping it pays off.
Good, man. And so I wish you all the best. I think it's a very interesting place to be, because I feel like there's both a lot of guidance and very little at the same time. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff you can look at online and read, and somebody who somebody who's not has ever really been in this industry, who's never really considered it until I started getting a little bit more into it, and like what cameras to buy, what mics to buy, is it really good enough, like how do you, and then editing and
Right.
learning the
Oh, it's
software
dizzying.
of both Adobe or like photo not Photoshop but Audition and Premiere, like how do
Uh-huh.
you go about all these things, and then what kind of scene
Right.
do you want to create? It is so creative and so open-ended that there's a lot of information out there, but it's hard to really know which information to take in, and who really knows. Like there's not really like there's no answer.
Right.
It's just information, and then you have to decide on on your answer on how you
What
want
you
it to be.
want.
Yeah, you have to do what you want, and there's a lot of freedom and a lot of enjoyment in that. But all because of the amount of information, I feel that it becomes overwhelming to the point of, personally for me, it's like, well, I don't know what the fuck to buy. Like, this was a lot of really cool info, but now what? It's like,
And if I had to pick one that I think is the best value, it's more than I can afford.
yeah,
It's like, so
yep,
the one I want, I can't afford, and the rest of them, it's like, and because you're like, you have a hard time focusing anyway. It's like, you just end up kind of freezing. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, and it's both like feeling both. There, I think there's a freeze, but there's also like a feeling of it's not enough, and so
Mm.
like I'm like I didn't choose the right thing, or I tried my
Ah.
best, but I really was like I missed the mark a little bit, and how can I make it better this next
Mm.
time? And I think that there's a lot
Constant
of good
buyer's
in
regret.
that. Say it again.
Constant buyer's regret.
I wouldn't say constant buyer's regret because I enjoy like I really appreciate the system that I've been able to create here. I think it's quite cool from somebody who has no background whatsoever, and people walk in here and
Right.
they're like, "Oh shit! This is a full thing." It's like,
Nice.
yeah, dude,
Yeah.
like we're fucking like we're doing the thing, we're
Right.
gonna do it, but it's just. I don't have the Shure mic, right?
Right.
The
Well,
one that
me
everybody has.
neither.
Yeah.
My wife got me this one for Christmas. It was a splurge. It's a nice one though. If you're looking for something like it on a budget, it's the uh, Audio Technica AT 2035.
Okay.
And if you want even, it's like $250, I think. But if you want even cheaper, they have this same like basic hardware of this in the AT 2020, which is like 150. It just has a couple optional things that this one doesn't have, and I liked that this one had them or whatever. No, she got it for me, so she picked it. But anyway,
These were I don't know, $160 a pop, and they're the Shure something or other. I was like, I want to. They're a beta microphone, so they're supposed to be
it's the
more for
yeah,
vocal and for studio.
yeah. It's the SM7. No, I
I have it. I
forget.
have
Yeah,
the
it's the
I
one with
have
the
the little.
little like funny little Star Wars looking microphone crown. You know what I'm saying? Like the like microphones in Star Wars. They got like the little. No, okay,
No,
just me.
yeah, I don't watch
All
Star
right.
Wars. I'm not a
Well,
Star Wars guy.
there are mics on a budget, so check out Shure and Audio Technica. I think every good mic manufacturer has an offering around like within the 100 to $200 range.
Yeah,
And if you
I
don't
mean,
have that, then get a freaking Yeti USB mic. Like those are pretty good, honestly. They're like 50
that's what I
bucks.
had before the XLRs, but it's like the like constantly improving my existence in this space
Nice.
and knowing that being open to the fact that I don't know everything and there's going to be a constant growing process and
Right.
the more and it's just like being able to find people to go to give you good information that really is going to be affordable or like if they
Mm.
say it's budget friendly like hopefully it really is budget friendly you step on like you look at it and like our budgets are similar maybe your budget is maybe it's budget friendly for you but goddamn like your
My
budget's
budget
insane.
is no, my budget is similar to yours. My wife's budget, on the other hand, is a little higher than mine. So she helps out she's investing in my business a bit.
that's
She
that
she got her own money. Man, we didn't even get to feminism. God damn it. I wanted to tear down the patriarchy with you. Can
yeah.
we do another one of these
Yeah,
sometime?
we can definitely
You
podcast
know,
again. I do have a
I
question.
don't. People are probably tired of my voice by now at an hour 19 if they've lasted this long. So I understand if you want to wait a while, but I'd love to do another one.
Cool, man. Yeah, we definitely will. I want to ask you one more question before we sign off here.
Cool.
What was the reaction like from your post?
Whew. You got right to the heart of the issue.
We've been
I've,
like kind of going around lots of places, but this is I've been wanting to get
yeah,
here.
I
So
actually had it pulled up in my Chrome browser right here because I was like, do I even remember everything I said? Confession moment. After I posted that, I literally didn't look at social media once for a week. I hardly even looked at my phone for a week. As I it felt so good to finally just vomit it all out. All this stuff that had been accumulating for me for years. And I was too goddamn nice to say it in public because I was worried who it might hurt or who might think less of me. And I just couldn't do it anymore. People kept saying to me, like, that's so brave of you. Like, they commented that, they messaged it to me. I would see the notifications pop up occasionally and swipe them away or whatever. And people I know close to me would hug me and say that was so brave, like to be so authentic. And I was like, I didn't feel brave at the time. I still don't feel brave. If I'm being honest, I don't know if I've ever felt brave in life. I just had a lot of good people around me. I had a lot of people who cared. A lot of people who could see I was a sweet kid who just needed a chance, you know? And a lot of people gave me a lot of chances. I have a lot of people. Jesus Christ, Benjamin. Ugh. I was like feeling fatigued 15 minutes ago. I was like, God, am I still talking? We need to wrap this up. And now it got me crying. Okay. If anyone listens to this, I think this is kind of fucking epic personally. We've been on a journey today, but we'll let the audience decide. So I have a lot of people to thank, and this is not the moment for it. I think they know who they are. I think I've thanked them profusely over the years because I know how I got where I got today. You know, it's not just me. I have very good intentions. I always have. So I can honestly say now I'm a good person. I couldn't say that 6 months ago. I couldn't say that 6 years ago. I think I could say that when I was 6, but that's also another pod. So I'm a good person, but a lot of people help me get to where I am, where I have stability for the first time in my life since I can remember. I have a wife who loves me, who would do anything she can for me. I have a circle, you know. I have a pod of people who I can trust, who I know give a damn about me, no matter who I am. At the end of the day, I have a little bit of money in my bank account, and I don't have a lot of debt, and I have a few nice things, and I get to go on vacation once in a while, and I can buy the snacks I want at the grocery store. And honestly, that's enough for me. Um, and it's been nice. And I thought that was it. That's all I needed, really, honestly, until I started smoking weed and realized I'd been sexually abused as a kid. Also another pod. God, I guess I need to start my own pod. Um, and and then all of that vomited out with the post, and then it was like, oh wow, now I'm even happier, I think, because now I'm also able to feel like I can be myself whenever I want. I'm not hiding who I am anymore from anyone. But it wasn't as simple as I thought. After the post, it and I'm willing to send you the post as if you like, if you want to like link it or
I
attach.
can
I don't
link
know
it.
how this works.
Yeah.
If you would like that, I'm willing to share it. Eh, I underestimated how quickly I could process that. Let's just say that. I was like, yeah, if I just get it all out there at once and I don't have to fucking care what anybody thinks anymore, I'll feel so good. And I did for a few. I did and I didn't. I did mostly, but then it was like, oh God, but I actually do care what people think. Like I thought I didn't. I was like, because I just couldn't anymore. I was so tired. I just couldn't hold it anymore. And I was like, I don't fucking care anymore. So I just put it all out there. But then when the texts started coming in and when certain siblings started calling me or other ones didn't, when I didn't hear from my parents for a week and a half, when my mom is known for being very on top of what I post on social media and being, and you know, commenting on what she's proud of and what she loves about my life, that I didn't see any comment from her, that I didn't hear from them for a week and a half. That hit me a little harder than I thought it would. Um, So when I finally did get a text and it was vague and generic, I didn't even answer it. I couldn't. I just didn't have it in me. I am so tired of being the bigger person. As someone who was the littler person, you know? I didn't have any fucking choice, and neither did they really. That's why I'm like, I love them. I love my parents, but I haven't been able to talk to them yet about it. My dad called me 2 days ago. He might hear this before I'm able to, like, I feel ready to call him. I'm sorry, Dad, if that's how you're finding out about this. That would suck. But it is what it is for me. And I guess that's all I can say about any of this, right? It is what it is for me. I've given up on trying to have the answers for anyone else. I tried to do that for a long time, especially as a Mormon. But come on, let's be honest. We all fucking do it at some point. We all think we have the answer because it makes us feel more secure. Because none of us, we all fear the unknown. None of us likes saying, I don't know. None of us likes admitting we don't know. We don't like the unknown. And so instead, we'll just say, oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. And yeah, I know that. Yeah. It's this. Yeah. Even if we don't. Right. But for me, I've finally landed there. You know, this is what it's been for me. It'll be something else for you. But at the end of the day, we all avoid pain and we all want pleasure, right? And trauma is trauma. My therapist says that to me all the time because I'm always trying to compare myself to other people, saying, like, I don't have it as bad as them. I don't have it as bad as them. And she says, trauma's trauma. It doesn't do any good to compare it. Like, what good will that do you? There's no way for anyone to absolutely know who suffered more or less. And if you did, it wouldn't fucking matter. It would just make your healing take longer. So trauma's trauma. Don't compare.
So I usually have somebody end off with like a little golden nugget of information that they would have liked to have left to themselves when they were maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago. And so if you'd like, you have the floor. Once you finish, we're going to go ahead and end the call.
All right. All right, little Cameron. Hustle up, buddy. You and your little bowl cut. And your too many freckles on your face from the Arizona sun. Come take a knee on oh, that's weird. Nah, just get over here. Come here, Cameron. I would say be more cautious about who you trust. Not everybody is worthy of your trust. Not everyone will protect you. But don't worry, you will have a lot of good people who will. Just pay attention to who protects you. That's what I'd say to little Cameron. And one last little anecdote, just because I haven't said anything yet, and I'm a total mushball. I wanted to thank my wife, Brittany, for creating a very safe place for me in this world. I was so arrogant as to think that I was creating that for her at first. And I was too. We both have for each other, but I've since realized, wow, I needed her more than I ever knew. Even though I've always been able to admit she's more than I thought I ever deserved. What a conundrum. Anyway, I love you, Brittany. Thank you. And thanks everyone who listens and gives a crap. And thank you, Benjamin, for having me.